All right, let's just cut right to the chase. Imagine you're known primarily for two things: wearing a fedora in 2006 and being married to the biggest pop star on the planet. And then, decades later, you decide the world desperately needs your memoir, a book with the audaciously brilliant title, You Thought You Knew. You guys, Kevin Federline, the man, the myth, the legend of backup dancers everywhere, is releasing a tell-all book. But here's where the story goes from a mildly amusing pop culture footnote to a heavyweight title fight. Just as K-Fed announces he's about to bless us with his literary masterpiece, Britney's most recent ex-husband, Sam Asghari, steps into the ring. And he doesn't just throw a punch, he delivers a verbal knockout so clean, so precise, so absolutely devastating, it has the entire internet buzzing. He called Kevin a, get this, a professional father. A professional father. That's not a compliment, that's a kill shot wrapped in a backhanded compliment. And oh my God, we have to talk about this. What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. If you live for this kind of beautiful, messy celebrity chaos, you have absolutely come to the right place. Before we dive into the glorious shade being thrown, do me a huge favor and smash that like button and subscribe, because you are not going to want to miss a single juicy detail of this breakdown. Trust me. Okay, so let's set the scene. On one side of the ring, we have Kevin Federline, or K-Fed, as he was iconically known. Let's be real for a second. His entire public identity was forged in the fiery crucible of his relationship with Britney Spears from 2005 to 2007. This was peak tabloid culture. It was a whirlwind of low-rise jeans, reality TV on their show Chaotic, and a marriage that felt like it was playing out in real time on the cover of every magazine in the checkout aisle. After they split, his career, well, let's just say his rap album didn't exactly go platinum. His primary public role since then has been, for all intents and purposes, the father of Britney Spears' children, Sean Preston and Jayden James. And let's be honest, he's been living a relatively quiet life, collecting a hefty child support check and seemingly staying out of the major spotlight. Until now. Out of absolutely nowhere, a press release drops. Kevin Federline is writing a book, a memoir, and the title is You Thought You Knew. My first reaction was, knew what exactly? Your favorite brand of V-neck? How to successfully pivot from dancing to not dancing? But the press release is even better. It promises to deliver the story of, and I quote, fame, fatherhood, and the private cost of public life for one of pop culture's most misunderstood figures. Misunderstood? Sir, I think we understood pretty clearly. You were a dancer who fell in love with a global icon, had 2 kids, got divorced, and secured a very, very comfortable financial future. What's to misunderstand? The press release continues with this gem. I achieved my biggest dreams, dealt with crushing heartbreak, and endured constant ridicule, all while becoming the father my children needed as they experienced nonstop emotional turbulence. Okay. Let's unpack that. Constant ridicule? Yeah, I mean, the media was brutal back then, and people definitely gave him a hard time for what they perceived as riding Britney's coattails. But non-stop emotional turbulence? That phrase is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. That is a direct nod to everything Britney has gone through, especially in her post-conservatorship life, and he's framing himself as the stoic, stable anchor in the storm. It's a very clever, if not a little opportunistic, way of positioning himself as the hero of the story. Her story, mind you. This all makes a little more sense when you remember that back in May of 2023, Kevin made the very public decision to move their 2 sons to Hawaii, and his attorney made it a point to confirm that Britney had consented to the move. It felt then, and it feels now, like a deliberate move to separate the boys from the perceived turbulence surrounding their mother in California. So this book is clearly going to be his magnum opus, his grand testimony about how he, Kevin Federline, saved his children from the chaos of their pop star mother. It's a narrative he has been carefully building for years. Now enter our second player, Sam Asghari. Sam is Britney's most recent ex-husband. They settled their divorce last May. For years, Sam was seen as the good guy. He stood by Britney during the darkest days of the #Free Britney movement. He was the supportive, handsome partner who was helping her navigate her newfound freedom. The marriage didn't last, which is sad, but he has, for the most part, been relatively quiet and respectful since their split. Until now. TMZ catches up with Sam on August 16th, just over a week after Kevin Federline's book announcement. They ask him what he thinks about this upcoming literary event of the century, and Sam, without even hesitating, drops the most sarcastic, dismissive, and utterly brilliant line. He looks at the camera and says, "He was a professional father, so it would be the first book that would tell you how to be a professional father." Let's just let that marinate for a second. The genius of that line is in its layers. On the surface, it almost sounds like a compliment. Professional implies you're good at your job. But what he's really saying is that being a father to Britney's kids wasn't just a role, it was his career. It was his job, his source of income. His entire public identity for nearly 2 decades has been subsidized by Britney Spears. The insinuation is that Kevin didn't have another job because being Britney's baby daddy paid the bills. It's a polite, camera-friendly way of calling him a freeloader who turned fatherhood into a lucrative profession. It is without a doubt one of the sickest burns in the history of celebrity ex-feuds. It's the kind of insult that makes you gasp and then immediately slew clap. It completely undermines Kevin's entire misunderstood hero dad narrative with 6 little words. What's even more savage is the timing. Kevin is trying to rebrand himself as this noble, struggling father who braved the storm of public life. Sam comes in and reminds everyone, yeah, a storm that was happening to your ex-wife, which in turn funded your entire life. It completely reframes the entire situation. Kevin is trying to sell a book about the cost of public life, and Sam is reminding everyone that, for Kevin, there was also a significant profit. And honestly, my personal opinion is Sam is not wrong. Can we just be real here? Is Kevin a bad father? I don't think we have any evidence of that. By all accounts, he's been present in his kids' lives. But to write a book called You Thought You Knew, as if there's some hidden noble struggle we've all missed, it just feels incredibly disingenuous. The turbulence he's talking about, the source of all the drama, the money, the fame, the entire reason anyone even knows his name is Britney. This isn't his story to tell. It's a chapter in her story that he happened to be a part of. This book is essentially Kevin trying to monetize his proximity to Britney's trauma, and to do so under the guise of heroic fatherhood. It feels icky. It feels like he's cashing in on a narrative that he helped create. And for Sam Asghari, someone who actually witnessed Britney's struggle up close as she fought to end her conservatorship, to see this must be infuriating. Sam saw the woman who had been a prisoner in her own life for 13 years finally find her voice again, only to have her ex-husband decide it's now his turn to speak for her, to tell his version of her life. So when Sam calls him a professional father, it's more than just shade. It's a defense. It's him saying, dude, you don't get to co-opt her story for your own gain. You don't get to play the victim. And the title of the book, You Thought You Knew, becomes almost tragically ironic. Yeah, Kevin, I think we do know. We know you were a backup dancer who hit the jackpot. We know you've been living a comfortable life thanks to your connection to one of the most famous women in the world. And we know that this book is just the next logical step in that career path. It's the retirement plan. Can you even imagine the chapters? Chapter 1, The Art of the Low-Rise Jean and Frosted Tip Combo. Chapter 2, How to Negotiate Child Support Like a Boss. Chapter 3, Hawaii on a Budget, a very, very large budget. Forward by his lawyer. It's a joke, but it's also not a joke, because this is a real book that is going to be published and sold. He's framing himself as the responsible one, the one who had to make the hard decisions for his kids because of his ex-wife's erratic behavior. And while Britney's public behavior can be pretty unpredictable, let's not forget the context. This is a woman who was a prisoner in her own life for 13 years. She wasn't allowed to make her own decisions, control her own money, or even choose her own coffee. So she's now experiencing a freedom that most of us take for granted, and she's doing it under the most intense microscope imaginable. So for Kevin to come out with a book that essentially pathologizes her behavior as turbulence that he had to save his kids from, it feels incredibly predatory. It feels like he's kicking her while she's still learning how to stand on her own 2 feet again. He's not a misunderstood figure. He's a figure who has profited directly and indirectly from Britney's fame and her struggles. And Sam Asghari just summed up that entire complex 2-decade-long history in one perfectly passive-aggressive